And I'm going to do another couple quick reminders since a number of you weren't here when we first started the session. One of which is this blue form, front and back. It is the evaluation form for this workshop, and we would really appreciate your feedback. It's not as onerous as it looks, even though it's front and back. And one of the things that I also want to highlight about it on the back is we're asking not only your opinion about future topics you'd like to have us cover, but ways to reach you with information. So these workshops like this in person are only one of the ways that we can try and provide you with information on some of these really important topics. But there's other ways as well, and there's a list of some suggestions, and we would love to get your feedback on that. And let's see, the other thing also is just to let you know, calendars celebrating our local water resources. Be sure to pick one up if you're interested, located over there. So our next speaker this morning is Steve Jilk. He's the manager of our local public utility district. Steve's been extensively involved for many, many years in trying to help work with many organizations in trying to address and solve some of our water problems here in Whatcom County. He's going to give an update on behalf of a number of these organizations about some of the things that are going on. I also want to give you just a quick note that what you're going to hear from Steve this morning, which he'll probably tell you, is only some of the work that is going on locally to try and address some of the problems that you've been hearing about this morning. Just one other example and a place to go for more information is in October, we had a several-hour update on some of the groundwater modeling and work that's going on here. That's available to view in terms of the PowerPoint presentations on the WIRA 1 project website. So be sure to check that out if you want to see more about another aspect of some of the work that we're doing here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
Thank you, Sue. Sue mentioned the evaluation sheets. After you hear my presentation, I hope you don't need more evaluation sheets. I talked to a gentleman this morning from the east side of the Cascades. I believe he represents the Blueberry Commission. And in an interesting comment this morning, he said we were talking about the amount of water that we're accumulating here on the west side and the puddles that he had to walk through to get from his vehicle to the building. And he said, if they had that kind of water on the east side, if someone had a mud puddle in front of their house, it'd be on the front page of the paper. Just a consideration of the difference between this side and the west or on the east side. The other thing I want to mention, Sue did mention that I've been involved with water issues for quite a few years. We raised our hands before. I started working here in the city of Linden in 1993 on November 1st. On November 3rd, I got a call from the then general manager of the public utility district, Tom Anderson, and asked me to attend a meeting with folks from the city of Bellingham and Whatcom County to talk about watershed management and water supply management. So been with it a long time. I'd like to suggest that, I'd like to think that we've been able to accomplish a lot in that some 23 years. But at the same time, as some of the speakers before me indicated, there is a lot of work yet to be done. And I think that the recent court cases probably highlight for some of our elected officials the need to address water management on a countywide basis. And I also think that the climate impacts that we had been experiencing over the last few years also highlights not so much the challenge, but an opportunity for us to come together to deal with water management. And so today what I'd like to do, as Sue indicated, is just take a few minutes to go over some of the projects that I'm aware of, some of the processes that I'm aware of that folks, different organizations, individuals, organizations, government entities, tribes are working on that many may not be aware of, and try to suggest to you that some of these projects, all the projects that I'm going to talk about today, really have a connection to each other in terms of looking at the things that we've already heard about this morning. So with that, and the other, please just raise your hand and ask a question as we go along. Don't wait until the end, because I've got a lot of information, a lot of slides with a lot of verbiage on it, on them, and I'm going to move through them fairly quickly, but some of the terms and references that I use, I'm hoping that will inspire you to question, you know, what that's all about. So please just interrupt me as we go along and do so. With that, we heard this morning about, I think, some questions and some comments about not having enough water. And I've been of the opinion for many, many years that it's not a matter of enough water. It's really all about when and where we have it. And then looking at how we manage the where and the when, the how much, and how we utilize it, and looking at it as a system. And I think we had a couple of references to that term this morning, but that we start really getting our hands around and the idea around and our mind around that we collectively need to manage water as a resource, not necessarily figure out how to solve a individual problem like the results or the impacts of the recent court cases. So there are a number of organizations that have been working. Sue mentioned this morning about the Wire One Watershed Management Plan. There are a number of organizations that have been working under that umbrella, looking at watershed management, but also water supply, water quality management over the years. But just in the last couple of years, we've got a very loosely coordinated but collaborative group of folks that have decided to come together and share what they see as an opportunity to deal with individual components of the water supply and water quality issue, and to look at as many aspects of the system as we can. And on this slide, we just tried to identify all the potential uses, both in stream and out of stream needs that we need to identify and work with. So collectively, again, we are currently calling ourselves the Water Supply Working Group. It's basically a group of staff members from different organizations. We've tried to include cities, the county, agriculture, tribes, water districts, water associations, and we have not reached out to individual well owners at this time, but we're starting to develop, again, a collaborative thinking around how we can address some of these issues. And this is just a list of areas that we've identified as what we believe our work effort should represent. Comprehensive description of water supply sources in terms of water quality and quantity, a description of water supply needs in both in terms of quantity and type, to provide a countywide snapshot of the water supply sources' ability to meet not only existing but future water supply needs, and to identify areas where water supply sources may be insufficient now or in the future to meet the needs, to identify alternative water supply sources to meet those existing and future needs, and then bring together as many willing partners as we can to come up with water supply solutions on a regional basis. So this group has set some goals for the years 2016 through 2018. We want to try to understand and identify what the out-of-stream quantity deficiencies are based upon land uses. To provide water supply information that would connect water availability to land use, especially in the Whatcom County Comprehensive Land Use Plan, but also cities. And I'll talk a little bit later about water systems, water associations, as well as agriculture and industrial needs. And then develop, evaluate, and consider support those projects or processes that served two purposes. One is to provide incremental solutions to demonstrate progress, and then secondly, address long-term supply security. We've been, the feeling of the group that's been meeting for almost 2 years now is enough planning, although today I'll talk about planning, but let's get something done. Let's prove the value of doing all this planning, and by doing that, we can really provide support to the water users in the county, but also we hopefully will provide or show benefit when we ask for funding from state and federal agencies to support this work. Fourth one would be to provide this use information to the public, to advisory groups, to elected officials, and decision makers, including tribes and other relevant stakeholders. Understand water quality deficiencies in the context of informing water supply. We heard a lot this morning about Streamflow, impact on salmon, and we have to keep in mind whether or not we want to believe the Streamflow rule that's set today, whether or not that's accurate, whether or not it really reflects the need of salmon or not. We need to move forward in working within the environment of the existing state laws and the existing stream flow, and look at ways to provide water for both out of stream and in stream. And finally, there are places in the state of Washington, especially on the east side, the Columbia Basin, the Yakima area, and the Walla Walla area, where there's a lot of work going on that's, in a sense, sort of ignores state water law, but gives the local groups the ability to set agreed upon stream flows and then work within the context of meeting those stream flows, but at the same time finding water for out of stream needs. So here are just a few of the projects that that I'd like to identify today, and I think that folks from the Lummi Nation would also update us on their consideration of the settlement proposal that they have right now. And one of the things that I want to preface these next few slides about and these projects about is I think the most critical thing that this group that is trying to collaborate on the different projects, what we're trying to do is bring about a vision of system management, and each of the organizations that have taken on these projects have agreed to do so because they've identified an opportunity where they can do something with a specific project or process that would then bring collaboration to somebody else that's doing another project. I don't have a graphic here today that shows what our vision is as to how they all tie together, but I think that you'll hear some obvious linkages. One is the coordinated water, and we say supply plan here, but it should be coordinated water system plan. This is a coordinated water system plan that each county in the state has to do. It's really looking at the potable water associations, smaller systems in rural areas, and how those water systems can continue to support and provide service within the areas that are designated their service areas. And why should we care about bringing in this information into our bigger discussion about water supply in the county is because most of their water source is groundwater, It impacts a significant area of Whatcom County. When the county updates their coordinated water system plan, they use a local group called the Whatcom Water Utility Committee, which is really just representatives from different water associations with 50 connections or more. And they then work with a consultant that's hired by the county to update the plan. What do they look at? They look at all the water systems in the county. They look at the existing demand that those current customers in those water associations create. They look at what is the supply or the source of that water, groundwater mostly, and then what is the future demand for each one of those associations or systems. And they look at water rights. Does the system have sufficient water rights to meet current and future demand? Do they have the system capacity, wells, pipelines, pumps, and so forth to meet that future demand? And then they identify through that process whether there's a surplus or a deficit in both water rights and system capacity. So the reason that we want to include the information that is generated through that process in our bigger discussion is we start identifying what water rights are really available, what the capacity is, where those systems are located, and the potential for integrating those water systems into a bigger supply program for the entire county. The second program that I'd like to talk about today is what we're calling the ag use or irrigation use and streamflow analysis. We are one of the members of the Wire One Joint Board. We work through the Puget Sound Partnership, which is really an organization that provides funding and some direction to local entities to try to come up with a salmon recovery program and cleaning up Puget Sound in terms of water quality. We were able to get some funding through that program to conduct this project, and it's really two parts. We wanted to take a look at the existing use of ag use, and the draft report that came out of this work this last fall. I think there should be copies on the table over there, and the final report is coming out by the end of this year. But we wanted to come up with at least a snapshot of what the existing use in Whatcom County is for irrigation. We wanted to take a look at trying to match up not farmer to farmer, well to well, but at least by drainage, some sense of what the existing water rights were for irrigation purposes in the county. Then we wanted to look at whether or not there was a supply surplus or a deficit. So looking at existing use, water rights, generally across drainages in the county, are there sufficient water rights? And if there are, is there a potential for sharing some of those, some of that surplus for adjacent irrigators? Then we took a look at streamflow analysis, and here what we wanted to do was not necessarily marry up the streamflow with irrigation during certain times of the year or by location, but just get some sense of what the trend is on stream flows both in the tributaries and the main stem. And then we want to take a look at what kind of tools should we consider, or should the group consider using to marry up or match up existing water rights, existing agriculture use, and stream flow. Again, putting that information into a bigger picture of, again, water management on the Nooksack Basin. One of the things that one of the ideas that did come out was establishing a water exchange program, or some people refer to as a water bank. And this has been fairly successful in some parts of the state. but when you look at how it's been applied in some parts of states like the Dungeness over on a peninsula, over in Kittitas County, those applications are fairly easy compared to the complication and the competition for water, both in timing and quantity, as it relates to especially irrigation in the Nooksack, but it is something that we feel that we should pursue further. The third is what we're referring to as a water system support program. And what this is a 2-year program that the Public Utility District is funding through a grant from the Department of Health. And what it is essentially, it's an opportunity to look at some over 250 water systems in the county, and that we recognize that those systems, they mainly serve domestic potable purposes, but there are some in the county that either through interties with larger systems or on their own provide some agricultural water supply. We have identified over the years, working with some of these smaller water associations, that they need ongoing technical and managerial financial support. Basically, some local group or agency or individual that they can go to ask questions about developing rates, about replacing infrastructure, about applying for grants, and just as simple as finding licensed operators or certified operators to back up their existing personnel, because we're seeing so many of the individuals that have supported these smaller systems over the years are retiring. They're probably part-time or volunteer, and when we start dealing with the complications around water rights, financing, meeting State Department of Health regulatory issues, we think they'd benefit from having a local resource to help them move through those issues. So what we did, we went to the State Department of Health and we said, if the PUD would develop a local program to help Whatcom County water systems increase their technical, managerial, finance capacity to successfully run as sustainable utilities in the future, would the State Department of Health help us finance a 2-year study, building relationship, building indicators of what these water systems and water associations would need, would they fund it? And they agreed to that. The key piece to this is that why are we talking about this program in relation to water supply? Again, so many of these small water systems, we're going to be depending upon them in the future to provide the support or the service and supply that they have in the past. If they can't sustain their operations for whatever reason it is, whether it's financial, whether it's water rights, whatever it is, there's going to be a big hole in terms of what our assumptions are in water supply in rural Whatcom County. The next one is a drought contingency plan. We went to the Bureau of Reclamation last year and identified a grant program that they have. It's a nationwide program that they provide funding for local jurisdictions to develop a drought contingency plan for their jurisdiction. And I'm sure most of you are aware that there is a state, the state of Washington has completed their drought contingency plan a couple of years ago, and they are currently updating that this year. But there are, as far as we know, there are no county by county drought plans in place. And so we went to the Bureau of Reclamation, and they recognized our request, and they have provided 50% of the cost of what we see as developing the drought contingency plan here in Whatcom County. What will we do through the plan? we will establish a method of monitoring drought conditions. The next two items I think are key here. We'll determine as best we can the vulnerability of our local agricultural community, but also our cities and individual private property owners. How vulnerable are we here in the county to drought conditions? As Nick was referring to this morning, you know, the changing climate conditions, heat and precipitation changes, that may have been a one-timer or two-offer, as they say, the last couple of years, but long-term, we know that climate conditions are changing, and so we need to decide as best we can how vulnerable will we be here with those changes. Then set up what we think could be the best mitigation actions. How do we deal with the loss and flow in the river? How do we, on an extended basis, how do we deal with lowering groundwater tables? How do we deal with temperature? What's the best response actions that we can come up with? Then set those response actions in place so that when we start experiencing those drought conditions, if we do in the future, we're prepared to act. And then to sustain that process, we need to set up an operational administrative framework. This drought contingency planning process is just starting this month. Hopefully, we'll kick that work off in establishing a drought contingency task force, representing as broad a base as the community as we can to help us work through the planning process and come up over the next year to year and a half that plan, put it in place. This next one is pretty exciting. This is one of the few real new water opportunities that I think we recognized in the last few years. We're calling this the North County Regional Source or Deep Aquifer Feasibility Study. This is a project that's been taken on by Birch Bay Water and Sewer District and the City of Blaine. They applied for and received a grant from the Department of Ecology under the Watershed Implementation Program. And the basis for their work will be to do an investigation on a project to enhance flows. Now, that's flows in stream as well as potential flows of water out of stream. And what they're looking at is finding a deep aquifer source in the northwest part of the county. It's my understanding what they'll do is drill up to 4 deep wells with a hope that they'll find up to, I think, about 450 to 500 feet below the ground surface to see if they can find quality and quantity of water that would make it feasible to move that water from the northwest corner of the county to other areas, such as some of the water associations up in north central county, possibly augment stream flows, provide water to irrigators to offset their current groundwater take. And again, if they can find it, it is a new source of supply, and it would not impact stream flow in the existing tributaries nor the main stem of the Nooksack, so it would not be impacted by the stream flow rule. There are, we think, a lot of potential regional benefits, as I mentioned. They would support the development of water banks or mitigation exchanges. Again, if they find the sufficient quantity and quality water, they would, of course, Birch Bay and Blaine would also, take what they need for themselves to support their growth within their service areas. But their hope and expectation is that there's going to be a significant surplus of water that could be made available, and how they would actually distribute that would depend upon how this water bank or water exchange program could be set up. They do see this as a potential for augmenting existing flows in the lower Nooksack Basin and possibly reduce diversions from the lower Nooksack. How would they do that? Well, one way is that they could provide some of this water to some of the areas that the PUD currently provides water to, Cherry Point. If they could offset using the new groundwater to serve some of the areas out at Cherry Point, it could replace some of the water that we currently send out there, and so it could improve the stream flow from the Ferndale area down to the mouth of the river. And it could possibly provide municipalities with, such as the city of Linden, with new supply of water, or it could supply water to some of the other water associations that, let's say, the city of Linden is currently providing water to, and it could also improve public health. How it would do that? There's a number of water associations in North County that are dealing with nitrate contamination issues. If they could be provided a clean, cost-effective new source of water to replace that nitrate contaminated water, it definitely would be a win-win. And the idea of, that I talked about before, with some of these water associations that may not have sufficient water rights, or if they have a water nitrate contamination problem, a new source of supply could provide an opportunity for system consolidation. And tying back to the drought contingency planning, this new source of supply could provide some drought protection and drought resiliency if we could count on a water source that was not impacted by stream flow in the tributaries or the main stem. The last project that I'd like to talk about, and again, folks are here from the Lummi Nation, and they may want to make some comments on this after my comments are completed. This is a project that the Lummi Nation has received funding from the Department of Interior. And what they would do with this is take a look at a lot of the information that we've been gathering through these other projects, and then take a look at what they feel would be some significant and valuable improvements to both stream flow and fish habitat in the tributaries, and as a way to offset some of the water that is currently being used by irrigators that would be left in the streams, that this could possibly provide water to those irrigators and the needs in rural Whatcom County. What they would like to do is identify water systems and projects that would supply water for out-of-stream and in-stream uses that would improve salmon and shellfish habitat and resilience to climate change in portions of the Wire 1. The goal of the project is to evaluate in-stream and out-of-stream supply and needs for the Nooksack River watershed, including Lake Whatcom, and development of water supply systems projects that utilize supply sources to meet those needs. What this really is taking a look at the interconnectivity, again, location, where is water needed, how can we get it there to meet both in-stream and out-of-stream needs, and then develop some very high level planning level engineering costs on how to build infrastructure and how to move water rights around to do that, which hopefully will be the basis for funding requests to federal and state agencies to support those projects. So from here, where do we go? We feel that the next steps should be to complete some of these works that we've talked about this morning, and a lot of work that's being done by other agencies and organizations that we haven't spoken about, but that we would align that water supply plan with sources, uses, and the infrastructure improvements that we referenced here, and then we would look to integrate that information into cities and counties' comprehensive plans. One of the things we talked about this morning was the Hearst case and the decision by the Supreme Court about the need for the county to amend their comprehensive plan to reflect water resource protection. This kind of information and these options that we talk about here and that we develop plans around could be integrated into those comprehensive plans to address some of those issues. And of course, a big piece of this would be to create opportunities to reach settlement with the tribes on what their proposed settlement concept is all about, and that it would provide in-stream needs, but it would also help us identify how we can use water to improve habitat and water quality, and then how we develop the interrelationship and tie into all the other water systems. So again, whether it's municipal, cities, whether it's water associations, water and sewer districts, whether it's irrigation and private wells, we really need to start developing this system management concept, and hopefully the work that we're all doing will provide that opportunity. So either everybody's asleep or nobody had a question.
A lot of information. Thanks, Steve. I want to hand the mic over to Jeremy Fryman to give a quick update on the Lummi settlement proposal and any other comments he would like to add to Steve's presentation. And I want to thank Jeremy for doing this. I sort of put him on the spot. He didn't come here knowing he was going to.
Thank you, Sue. Yeah, I'm Jeremy Fryman. I'm the Water Resources Manager for the Lummi Nation. And it's been alluded to here today by a number of the speakers. There have been a number of very long-going efforts to try to resolve the conflict over the timing and availability of water in the watershed. Lummi has introduced a settlement initiative that started in 2014, and we're still pursuing that. Some of the work that Steve alluded to is part of that broader effort. Our settlement initiative has really 5 elements to it. So I should emphasize that it's a geographically distributed settlement initiative. So there's a broad initiative for the whole Nooksack River watershed, but what we're looking at is separate settlements within the broader settlement, separate solutions for each of the various drainages. So there'll be a geographic area, like for example, Bertrand Creek. There'll be another one for Fish Trap Creek. And then each of those different areas, there'll be the 5 elements of our settlement proposal are basically in-stream flow for fish habitat, restoration efforts, water quality, water supply for out-of-stream uses, and then accountability. And so the accountability element of the proposal is really predicated on the fact of what we're trying to do is provide economic incentives for people to perform under the terms of the settlement agreement. And so with the accountability part, the concept is we will identify performance objectives in the settlement, and if those objectives are not achieved, there's a financial cost both for the extent and duration that those are not achieved, with the idea of providing that incentive to actually achieve them. So that's the purpose of those settlements. So, that's it in a nutshell.
Thanks, Jeremy. So we have time for a few questions for either Steve or Jeremy. I'm sure would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Anybody? Over here.
Hi. I just want to thank everyone for being here. My concern is that I'm a new farmer, right? And I need to know if I can invest 20, 30, 40 years of my life going forward into farming. And in my opinion, I think that Whatcom County has the best combination of availability of water and soil. And I just hope that everyone here can consider the views of millennials like myself that want a future in farming and want a viable future in farming. That's all.
without answering, I mean, I don't think it was so much a question as a statement, and I appreciate that. I think the key to ensuring that agriculture in Whatcom County is sustainable is to continue to engage and excuse me, to offer opportunities for engagement from all sectors of the economy, not just agriculture, to look at land use and water availability especially, and how it how necessary it is to include that discussion and that relationship no matter where we are, whether it's at the county council, whether it's at cities, whether it's water districts, whether it's your ag water board that has built a high level of credibility in this discussion. And I think that's the best that we can do. And when you have folks like Henry Beerlink and others representing the ag community, they've really raised that visibility and interest of that group, willingness to maintain that discussion. So.
I was really pleased to hear Steve's talk and Jeremy's comments that there's a lot of work going on in the county to try and develop solutions. And it looks like there are a number of possibilities that might work out to help relieve some of the supply constraints that we're worried about. The one thing I didn't hear about, and that I think might be really an important part of the solution, is water use efficiency. And I'd like to hear what Steve and Jeremy have to say about whether that is a potential partial solution to our problems.
I think it's absolutely, and when we look at it in terms of efficiency, using the water that we have available, whether it's legal water rights or in whatever form, that we absolutely need to look at ways to increase that efficiency of use. The other flip side of that is the conservation. And are there ways that we can use less water? It's not a matter of using it more efficiently. It's not just that. It's, are there ways that we can simply not use as much water? And I think that the PUD's perspective on that is that we serve right now mainly irrigation customers and Cherry Point Industries, and I can tell you that I've been with the PUD for 10 years, and we see a high level of interest on part of the Cherry Point Industries to use water more efficiently and conserve water. 10 years ago, I think the average daily demand on Cherry Point by Cherry Point customers from water from us was about 18 million gallons a day. It's down now to about 13 to 14 million gallons a day. Saying that, though, it's critical that we understand where we save that water, where we use less, and where it's actually most beneficially put to use in the basin to meet in-stream flows and to meet other needs. So in our case, our diversions are, about a mile or so upstream from the city of Ferndale, and then about a half a mile below the bridge in Ferndale. So if we reduce our take for Cherry Point industrial customers at those locations, it's not necessarily beneficial to the rest of the system simply saving or not using as much water there. I think the thing that we need to look at in terms of conservation and efficiency is in the tributaries and upstream, in the river, and then how we can best put that saved water to use. Again, location, timing is most critical. So simply using less water someplace in the system doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to provide opportunities for other uses.
So I have a kind of a follow-on question to that, because your presentation of necessity was very high level, but it's all these solutions have to be data driven. And so where are you collecting this data? Is it in databases? Are they public? Can it be accessed? How can we do research? In other words, it's going to take a lot of analysis to come to these solutions. And so how are you collecting, I know this is a complicated question, but collecting this data, storing it, making it available so that these solutions can be, you know, analyzed and worked out and so on.
It's a good question, and it's something that I failed to point out, and that is there's a couple of things that are going on and have been going on for a long period of time in the county. There's a number of river stream gauges just measuring flow. There's a number of sample testing locations throughout Whatcom County testing for water quality. The information that was gathered, for instance, on the coordinated water system plan, that's all public. The data that will be gathered, for instance, under our drought contingency work, that'll become public. The problem that we're having, and I shouldn't say we, but collectively, there is no central warehouse for that data. So when we look at, hopefully in a year and a half to 2 years, that we have some semblance of what we're referring to as a water supply plan, and what do we base that on? We should have a central warehouse. Sue mentioned the groundwater modeling work that's being done. When that model is complete and we start hopefully utilizing it to make decisions on where groundwater is available, how it's affected by surface water and vice versa, we should have a central location of that information and that kind of model, that computer program available, so that the people that are making decisions, we collectively can say, this is where the information's available. And we need to also agree on what that data means. And we can't do it in its current dispersed fashion. So,
Steve, is it accurate to say that even though the data may not be available on the WIRA One project website, that at least the reports will be there? So, and you can
Absolutely.
access some data through that particular website as well. So I think we have to wrap it up for this session, and thank you again, Steve. That was a great presentation.